Hello and welcome to TFT Worlds, Day 2, Game number 6. Enjoy.
Number 2, as we are going to hop on board with Lilu from China, who is currently second in points alongside Lu Li. This is a kind of a dynamic duo we've been seeing emerge. They've been playing a lot of lobbies together throughout all of the scrims, regionals, the mock tournament, and now finally we get to see whether or not Lilu can make that stamp on his for his region. China in general suffered some losses with Huanmi and Ahao, two heavy favorites going into it. Didn't make it, but then rest assured, China said, well, our remaining representatives are actually still quite good. And watching Lilu and Lilu play today, I believe it.
Yeah, I almost wonder if these two are kind of like, you know how in fighting games, if you have like a good sparring partner, the two of you can get really good together. I wonder if we're kind of seeing that going on, where the two of them, you know, have played together and sort of hyperbolic time chambered each other, and you know, we see them now at the top of the standings. And so maybe having that sort of partner that you can train with and talk about, you know, different comps has been advantageous, and so maybe something to learn from there.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the first augments, as we do have a silver tier augment presented. Some pretty generic ones. Oh, what is this? Dominance at 1-4, an augment that is often memed. Is this the Giga Chad move or what?
I mean, absolutely. We were just, I just saw it yesterday. Someone was saying, when was the last time you've taken dominance? And the answer is when you're dominating. And I kind of like this. He's got the 2-star Darius, the 2-star Ziggs. We could easily see a level to 4, use these 2-star champions, make a little bit of extra gold, and just punish the lobby. Again, there's no pressure on this player. Even if he goes 8th, he still qualifies. And so I like this choice here. To use your words, it definitely feels very Giga Chad.
Yeah, we'll see how much it pays off. And if he's able to make money, we all know how strong these Chinese players are able to execute if they get that early economy rolling. And you know, if it still gives you 10 gold throughout the early stage of the game, that's really, really good. So we'll see and catch up with him later. In the meantime, let's hop on board with the darkest of all the horses that has been very much putting everyone on blast for some of their opinions on him leading to the tournament. It's TXE, Oceania, a region that's been very underrated since the beginning of TFT. People call them a more for-fun region. I'm just going to say it. A lot of people really doubt can OC compete on the big stage. And time again, their reps really show us up. Esha last set did great. We saw Raza perform well. TXE could be the Oceania hero going into day number 3. All he has to do is not bottom 8.
I gotta say, during the last game, I was watching in TXE's stream, and the entire OC community is in there watching, cheering him on, you know, really hoping that their player can make it. And so that community is showing a lot of love and support for this player. And I think he's, you know, made them proud. Even if, you know, today goes a little rough, or maybe he makes it on to the next day, I think that community should be very proud of how well they've played today. And hopefully he can make it to the last day to up our, you know, regional representation. So that would be pretty sweet to see.
For sure, absolutely. It does start off with an incredible loss. That's as good as it gets. Having Yordles, you know that you're on the weaker side of things, but if you can take losses like that throughout the rest of the early stages of the game, you're going to be in a good spot. So TXE off on the right foot. He has been mainly leaning towards the Strikers scrap builds and has been largely rewarded with his itemization. Seems like he's been able to put that really strong late game package together. Introduced with the Lulu 2, which is always one of those question marks if you actually want to make it, because she's a big gold investment, but you still have some damage issues. Chooses to go for it, and so we'll see how much he's able to stick with that Euro package moving forward. If we take a look at Ging.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you that it feels like Lulu is a champion that costs 6 gold, but probably gives you the least benefit in the early game. You have no items to really up her healing, no traits to make that any more powerful. The CC isn't really that relevant in the early game. And so she's a champ that does have a lot of power in the, you know, middle to late game, but this early, like you said, can often almost be a waste of 6 gold. And so it's interesting to see. But yeah, moving over to Ging's board, has the Innovator Clockwork, just a really good start here. The Clockwork Heart is one of those augments that's really good. It means you only have to run 3 of the Clockwork champs. You can drop the Camille, for example, and be able to get the 4 Clockwork buff, which is a lot of attack speed for your entire team. That's a lot of mana generation. And so that can lead to a really cool composition around, say, Jhin and Orianna, if he can get that going.
Absolutely. I look forward to see if Ging can fulfill the prophecy from set 4. He was the darling child of all the caster predictions. I would love nothing more than to see Ging go to day 3 and finally fulfill a lot of those predictions correctly. Actually, more dog nonetheless, as he first picked them last time we did the fantasy cast.
Yeah, he was so on fire last set, you know, winning, like, I believe it was like Twitch Rivals and a couple other tournaments. He was coming into the championship quite hot, and unfortunately ended up getting day 1. So having him make it all the way to the final day here, I think, would be a big redemption. And it's just another story from, you know, coming in from the last chance qualifier, making it all the way to day 3. We saw that last time. Both of those would be sort of phenomenal stories. And so, you know, Ging, as long as he can get like a solid top 4 finish here, might be able to make that happen.
All right, well, we do take a look at Wuzhou, who has an Assassin Zyra too. That's a really unusual combination. A lot of people even believe Zyra is in that same tier as Lilu, that Zyra 1 is pretty much all you need. Do you actually want to commit your gold to a 2-star Zyra? And he went one step above. He said, I'm going to not only keep this 2-star Zyra, I'm going to itemize her and play her as a carry with the Assassin emblem. That's a really unusual dynamic that has rewarded Wuzhou with a 3 streak so far.
Yeah, for sure. Zyra is the kind of spell that, if the cast at the right time, can actually miss because everyone's moving forward. It's got a bit of a delay before it activates. And so, you know, with that spell not having any mana items or any, like, a scholar to get the mana generation going, can often miss. And so, like you said, like Lilu, can end up being a big miss. Moving over to Megaman's board, has calculated loss, which is one of the riskiest but highest ceiling tier 1 augments you can get. If you're willing to lose a bunch, you get all those free rerolls, you get a bunch of extra gold, you can see his economy is looking really good and he's on that 3 loss streak. But it can also backfire, as late game you've got no combat power from that augment. It's only a tier 1, so not too bad, but then also means you've got to make sure you don't lose any health. On the other side, by the way, that Zyra now has an Infinity Edge, so whatever this hits, we're going to see some big numbers there. You're looking at that 600 damage crit, and easily gives Mega Man the loss he's looking for, but taking full damage.
I'm looking at the Zyra, and all I can think about is a Pepe Frog opening his eyes in the bed. This is crazy. What are we doing here? What, a 2-star Zyra with Infinity Edge and Assassin Emblem? That is not what I wrote on my bingo card for Worlds today. We'll see just how sick that board will be able to carry Wuzhou, as he is streaking alongside Lilu. Let's take a look also at VCLF, another player we haven't checked in, a player that needs to go big or go home. They're at 19 points. They need to go for a top 2 if they have a chance at being able to advance. That still leaves them in tiebreaker range more.
Yeah, I think that's with actually at the points they're at, they actually need a first place. Like, they've got to come out real big. Now, the one thing I'll say is if you look at these items, you see the Last Whisper, you see the bow, you see the sword. That's definitely looking towards what we've seen for those first place Sivir comps, right? You can get the bow into the Ginsu's, you can use the sword into a Zeke's, and so if they can get that going, that is certainly the option I think they need to be playing around, is get that first place. But I don't think the rest of the lobby is going to make it quite that easy. On the other hand, though, Woozle with that Zyra going in with a perfect 5 streak, again, not what I think a lot of people would have expected.
I mean, that's TFT at its best, when you're able to take something that's not exactly for its normal role and be able to get tons of mileage. I mean, we've seen this in all kinds of Runeterra things. We look at Summoner's Rift doing the exact same thing. It's like taking a usual mid laner, turn him into a jungler. It's the same concept. How are we turning a utility support champion into the primary assassin backline carry? It's just so strange, but it's also just so cool.
It's the Zyra Ashe from Worlds in the bot lane, you know, before that got big.
Right.
I gotta say, Woozle, though, yeah, Woozle's got to be really happy with that start, though. Again, Woozle right now is sitting in 8th place in the standings, you know, right on that cusp, tied with Goose, and so he's a player who not only wants a top 4, but probably looking for like a 3rd to really guarantee that he's going to be able to move on. And there's nothing like a win streak, you know, to get you started to hopefully get towards that 3rd place that you're looking for, so has to be really happy with that.
Yeah, you know another player that's probably really happy Two people. First of all, that's a Poppy 3 from You Need, who did take Tiny Titans and apparently has Yordles going out with a bang. I see. The French know how to go out with style. The second is that Lilu, remember, picked Dominance and is on a 100 streak. So there's definitely some crazy stuff. Speaking of crazy stuff, that's a rapid fire cannon onto the Zyra. The story continues.
Watch the Zyra. Ooh. That is such big damage from the Zyra, and I actually love the RFC here. One of the things players don't really realize is that RFC is a lot of attack speed. It's not just the extra range. And I mentioned how Zyra needs something to generate that mana so she can cast these big Infinity Edge assassin-powered spells. RFC is almost as good as a Shojin in that regard, and can be pivoted later into something like a Kha'Zix or a Talon. And so I really like this from Woozle. This is just really good flex play. Oh my god. So, okay, on the sidebar, we have to call out, Lilu just went 7.
Oh, I mean, he probably has the gold to do it. If he's been having dominance and he's streaking, I bet he's also quite rich. Well, 14 is not the richest, but he can sell back up to 20, and he's also playing some higher tier units like Seraphine, and he has a Nikos on the bench, so if he ends up picking up really powerful pairs of units, the tempo can be outrageous here for Lilu.
Yeah, I love the static Shiv Slam here. That's an item that's kind of fallen out of favor. I think it gets used a little bit in the late game for the magic penetration, but a lot of people forget that because it's flat damage, it's so good in the early game, and he's using that in combination with dominance to just stack tons and tons of gold. This is definitely a way to go out in game 8 and just take this augment and literally, I mean, what's it called? Dominate with this thing. Like, this is amazing.
I want to see more, as we do see that not only Lilu streaking, but Woozle also on that 100 streak with that Zyra. Let's take a look at that 3-3 augments. We enter tier 2 augments. It's goals around. We're on TXE's POV, who has Keepers, Jewel Lotus, and Celestial Blessing. A lot of people just believe Celestial Blessing is very good with the scrap core. And because we have Electro Charge, it just means that we have a very good balance of damage and survivability in our augments right now.
Yeah, totally agree. Looking at those choices and knowing that TXE is really favoring that comp, we already see the Zeke's locked in. It felt like Celestial Blessing was the right play. Sivir's also one of those champions that people don't typically put a healing item on, like a Bloodthirster. And so Celestial Blessing can kind of cover up that weakness, allowing her to heal back up to full if she takes any residual damage, allowing her to get that DPS off even further. And so that can be really good here. And so TXE clearly has a plan here. The one thing to note here is he's in 6th place, 26 points, looking good. He's got to avoid that 8th and 7th. And while we have seen Sivir win a lot of comps, we've also seen a lot of Sivers crash and burn and get 8th and 7th. And so TXE better have a backup plan ready to make sure that he doesn't go 8th place here.
The Zyra train continues. She is in the back line. Her autos are hitting pretty hard against these units that don't have a lot of defensive stats. So TXE is gonna lose another one with this Wokjol comp. I just cannot believe what I am witnessing. This is just fantastic TFT.
I mean, Woozle really just being a thorn in everyone's side here, just with that Zyra. He's just really cool to see. And again, we have 2 players win streaking, into the 3rd carousel. Meanwhile, Megamin's at 40 health, Milk's at 64. So this is looking really strong. But again, now we're starting to hit that 3-5, where some people consider their level 7 roll down. Are they building up that economy? But Lilu, especially with that dominance, the fact that he's still going, like, we might just see a crazy runaway from this game. And I would not be shocked to see level 8 at either 3-5 or 3-6 here.
That's really interesting. The fact that we can hit such an early level 8. And yeah, we'll be at 0 gold, but if we win the rounds through having more units onto the board, we're going to rack up that gold count again. We'll check in them. In the meantime, on the bottom end of things, you don't get a Radiant Blessing at 40 health, and we're there already at 3-5. Megamin trying to see if he can stabilize, but he's already kind of frozen up. He's rolled to 30 gold, but he's not rolling any more, and it seems like he's chasing a Misfortune 3 build, which is a little bit on the unusual side considering that he has so small the gold tier augment. That combination is a little bit on the awkward side ever since Tristana rotated out. We don't really see a lot of snipers and Yordles combined.
Yeah, for sure. And Misfortune's the kind of champion right now where if she gets off one key cast, it usually deletes a lot of people. And that snipe from Caitlyn takes her down quickly and puts away any hope for Mega Man to win this round, and that's going to be a 9th loss in a row here from that Caitlyn. But yeah, as I was saying, Miss Fortune, I've not had any good success with Miss Fortune. She can get one big cast off, but usually needs a secondary carry or at least a lot of mana generation so you can get that second cast. And Miss Fortune 2 is just very difficult to get going here. I almost wonder if he's going to find a way to pivot out of it, but again, Mega Man's at that situation where he needs literally a first place, and I feel like Miss Fortune is not the comp that's going to get it for him.
Yeah, I fully agree there too. Does find a Braum too. We need to find a way to get this in play somehow. Doesn't end up replacing the Poppy. Takes out Yordles. Also doesn't get the bodyguards. I have to say that I feel like this is not a board that is stronger in the sense of the front lines, but it does feel like it takes a little bit away from what Megumin wants to do. Now gets to jump on the Zyra with her big grasping vines, hits the entire back line. Miss Fortune turns around, gets the kill, but Nocturne able to finish it off, and all of a sudden Megumin's damage is completely gone. And with tanky units remaining and no other damage sources, that's going to be yet another loss. Another macro point, Mort. We've gone 2 entire stages of combat. 2 players at 100 HP still streaking.
Yeah, every time it's time for a matchmaking, you have a 1 in 3 chance of fighting, each person in your thing. And so we just haven't gotten Woozle and Lilu to fight each other. And so here we are sitting at 2 people on 10 win streaks. And on the opposite end, we have Mega Man at a 10 loss streak. So this is clearly a lobby that is being dominated by 2 players. And so, yeah, it's just pretty crazy. And again, I don't think anyone anywhere was writing in their prediction that a Zyra Assassin was going to be how you got a 10 win streak. And that's how you were going to get to day 3 in Worlds. And so Woozle just putting on a display here and showing how TFT can be played if you're really willing to adapt and try lots of different things here.
Yeah, and of course, we're going to acknowledge it. Getting pretty fortunate, not going up against Lilu, who now is level 8, as we continue to roll down. That's 7 misfortunes. Can we find a way to utilize the spatula as well? I got my eye on a couple of things here for Megumin, who really needs to stabilize. We basically can't lose out here. We're at 20 HP. We know that other people who are streaking are going to cap out very high. We're going up against Milk, who has an Infinity Force Draven with a Zeke that's very powerful on paper, and looks like it's VIP Draven, so that bodyguard armor, which is non-existent because he doesn't even have it, with the Braum 2 aiming the wrong way. But there's just so much pressure, and it's only a Draven 1. There should be a win, unless this Draven's going to prove me wrong with some crazy crits. Oh my god, the damage is so high with the spinning axes, but still a nice, important win there for Megumin.
Oh, and both win streaks got snapped there as well. The one thing I was going to call out here is that was actually the one counter to Milk's Draven, was the dodge. He has the So Small Vex with Quicksilver. That's a 40% dodge tank, and so Draven not having the RFC can have almost half of its hits miss, so while he can cut through the bodyguards, that Vex is kind of the Draven's weakness there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Taking a look at TXC's board. That's not 1, that's not 2, that's 3 Zeeks. Also, just from a component count, TXC has almost all of his items. So this is actually a very fortunate series of events here for TXC to get so many items, to be able to get them into the combination that he wants. And now he has his Frozen Heart Echo into the back line, trying to stall that Draven out, being very tanky, and with the Electro Charge also adding additional damage, he's trying to really make it a team effort. That said, no one's really checking this Draven, and when Draven goes unchecked for a long time, he can still kill off a bunch of these champions. Even if Milk doesn't win, he's still preserving a lot of HP. There's no more damage left, and Draven's gonna be able to finish off the fight.
Yeah, I don't think Lilu can beat Draven in a one-on-one, unfortunately, and so that is going to be a loss for TXE. Again, very clear what TXE wants to do here, and he has the 3 Zeeks. But the one thing to note here is, like, he's got the cloak to maybe build that Quicksilver. Can't get the Ginsus because he's got the rod on that Echo unless he's willing to remake that Echo. And so even if he does manage to hit the Sivir, it's not going to quite be that full 3-item Sivir. The Zeeks will be very powerful here. But again, all TXE really needs is a top 4, so hopefully he can find a way to stay safe, hit what he's looking for, and make it into that top 4.
Yeah, we'll see. Even has that Zeri. I wonder if he's going to keep himself open to other options. We'll check back in there later. Now another person who has many options online here. It's Ging on the other side with a Striker Emblem onto the Zillion. Just really trying to emphasize the fact that he's trying to get the 6 Strikers online as soon as possible. And that Sivir with the Runas is still going to put out a ton of damage, even not having Last Whisper. Irelia 2 with the Deathblade. Gonna Blade Surge her way through and eliminate the rest. VCLF takes a loss. But the rest of the lobby kind of is equal in parity outside of Lilu and Lujol, who ran away with the HP total. It's very close from 3rd all the way even down to 8th.
Yeah, we're starting to see that stabilization of the people who played a little more open fort style, built up their economy, but are now starting to hit. For example, Megaman, we didn't really call out, but did hit his Misfortune 3, so that's going to make him pretty powerful. TXC, I kind of on the downfall, but like we're seeing our dominance, you know, not quite be so dominant anymore. Lilu definitely pushed that tempo and aggression. Has to be really happy, because if you look at the lobby, everyone but the top 2 is below 60, which means we have another fast-paced lobby here with a lot of people taking damage. And for the people that just need top 4s like Woozle, that's going to be pretty good, but, you know, hopefully we can see some extra damage here and, you know, people really starting to get their stuff online and get together.
Yeah, and for the people on the bottom, right, we saw that TXT got a Jinx, for example, off the carousel, as we see what VCLF is rolling for. If he can find that Sivir, he can find a good carry to put it on. Right now he's putting it on Senna 1. That's not what you're looking for right now. I feel like we have major damage issues, despite the fact their items are quite insane.
It's interesting because Senna is a comp that has basically fallen off the radar for the most part because it requires kind of pure perfection. You need amazing items, an amazing setup, good augments and stuff like that. That being said, he has a lot of the pieces. He's got decent items. He's got that 4 bodyguard, the 2 socialite. He can get enchanter in. But Senna 1 at stage 4-5, there's no world where that cuts it. And as you can see here, there's just no damage and ends up killing nothing, taking a ton of damage. And if VCLF doesn't hit something real quick here, this is going to be a pretty fast 8th place.
Well, that being said, this Disintegrator Augment has caught my eye. Oh, we're going to go with Scrap Crest.
Does hit the Sivir.
He does hit the Sivir. I just think with 2 Zeeks, Disintegrator really adds a ton of damage to the composition. But hey, more defensive traits like Scrap is always good as well. Let's head on over to another player, Ging, who has the Strikers online, is introduced with a couple of awkward ones, ends up picking Knife's Edge of all of them.
Do you see what I see on that backline?
I see a Jace 2. At 7! Wait, this is
that is a level 7. That is a level 7
Oh.
Jace 2 with a Striker emblem. That is a powerful Jace right there.
That is cheating. I don't know how to explain this one away. We're coming out of context. I don't really know what happened. All I know is Jace 2 is in the back line with a Striker emblem. He doesn't need Knife's Edge. I like this recognition. He's got a lot of flat AD already, so he's got some additional power. Oh dear, is this Jace gonna get pulled? It does not. Instead, it's going to be the Gnar, who transforms to Mega Gnar, going up against Milk, who now has Draven 2 with 3 items. This Infinity Force is gonna add so much crit. It's basically one of the strongest items you can put on a carry currently in the meta. And Jing ends up taking a pretty hefty loss. Milk actually gonna get it done and be moving up to 3rd place as we wrap up stage 4. I do want to call out that Megumin doing a great job. We said he needed to stop losing, and that's exactly what's happening. He snapped it, and he's currently on a streak charging for the top 4.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy. If we talked about where we were the standings just a little bit ago, where we had 2 people above like 80 and everyone else below 60, we're starting to sort of normalize here. All the way 3rd through 8th place is basically within 12 health of each other. Woozle is on the decline right now. And so our standing, this is still like one of those games where it's basically anybody's game. I think the only person on the downturn on the bottom side is like VCLF has kind of been struggling a little bit. So I think that's the one player we might want to keep an eye on, kind of worried about. But everyone else here, like look at Woozle's board now that we're seeing this level 8, 74 gold, clearly trying to get to that fast 9 with that high health advantage he played in the early game. And can play a lot of different things here. We see the items from the Zyra earlier, now moved on to that Kha'Zix. If he can hit Kha'Zix 2, that'll be a big upgrade. We could see something like a 3 Socialite Kha'Zix in the late game. Bunch of different options here, but back to Ging, we've got that Jace, a 4th Jace now. Doesn't get a really good item, though, to finish off that Jace, unfortunately. Shojin is not really what you want to see on that Jace, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, and he gets Zephyred from the Jinx off the scrap. TXE doesn't end up getting the pull. I wonder if that's kind of a blessing in disguise, though. We'll see as the Jace does end up calling down the gate. There's just too much striker pressure coming from the other direction. TXE able to get big damage onto Ging. So we'll have to see if whether or not Ging can pull himself out, as he's now tied for 8th place. As Uni does end up jumping over him. You did mention that the health totals are starting to converge here. Let's check in on VCLF, who has Sivir 2. Who doesn't have a lot of other 2-stars besides that, though. I'm looking at this 1-star Echo, Braum, 1-star Jinx, and Irelia. The 2-stars that he has outside of Sivir aren't the highest impact, and now has to position the best he can to make this happen.
Yeah, the one thing to call out is that the reason this comp is so powerful and has become kind of the S+ tier comp is that Scrap provides you so much flat health that even though a bunch of this army is 1-star, it is still a lot of health to burn through. And so you can see, like, all of these shields are looking really big. Now, on the other side, though, that is a very powerful Misfortune. Each cast that Misfortune does is probably going to wipe what it hits, but it's going to take multiple casts because he's got to go through the front line, he's got to go through the back line, and despite all that, that's why we see that MF is just not able to get, you know, through the 3 casts that were necessary. Sivir doing that damage untouched, and that is a really rough matchup for that Misfortune, unfortunately.
Yep, there you go. You know, I was really worried about... Oh my gosh, we hit both Echo and Irelia too. That's huge hits for VCLF, who needed that. Now, talking about hits, we're talking about stabilizing, we're talking about going to 9. Wuxel decided to greet it one step further. He's going to go at 5-5 with a little bit less health than where we're at currently. He's going to try to basically lose by the fewest units possible, and he has his Nikos ready to go. So here we go, the fight that he's going to try to see if he can preserve as much life as possible, going up against a very strong TXE board who's on fire right now, but this Kha'Zix won't quit. As long as we can kill a couple more units, we're good to go. Not the worst loss there, so I think it's okay here as we go into the Stage 5 carousel.
Yeah, I think Wuxel lost a little bit more health than he was hoping to. We saw him go from about 80 to 32 here. But as you called out, next turn he's going to level up. He's going to be level 9, have 40 gold. He's already got that Galio, and so hopefully he can put together the pieces he needs to turn this into a very strong legendary board and stop losing fights. Unid, unfortunately, did go out in 8th place, kind of putting him in 16th for the tournament. That's just a really rough day for Unid, unfortunately. Very good player that just really couldn't put things together today, and so sorry to see him go.
Yeah, the scary thing too is EMEA's greatest hope is also Ging. Coming into this game, he was 7th place at 25 points. A 7th place puts him very much in danger of dropping out. He's going to need to improve that a lot. He's fighting for every placement possible. Here we go, Wuxel, 40 gold plus change on his bench. Can he make a big legendary board? He still has a good amount of health, so he could take a loss and move it a little bit slower. Don't want to get too crazy and make your board weaker by accident in the attempt to put in legendaries. So continue to roll and see if we can find anything worth Nicoing. That's a Victor 2!
Yeah, the Victor 2 here is good. The only thing about this Victor 2, though, is he doesn't have any items. You look at this front line, he's running the 5 mutant with the execute, but that's not really a front line that's going to be very stable. This MF just tears through it. If the Kha'Zix can get the MF down, he might be okay, but otherwise, we're looking at Ging's board now, because again, Ging really needs a 4th place or higher, and so Ging is looking real close. The Jace is able to pull it out, though, got that Hurricane, stays alive, and we have got an insanely close game. Look at this, 10, 15, 16, 17, and again, I think right now the one we have to look at is Ging, because if Ging can get a top 4, he should hopefully be able to make it to the next day, but if not, that busts open the standings right open for those last 2 spots. And that's all, of course, depending on how the other lobby is going as well. So
it can't get any closer for 4th place here. 4 players in very close to dying. And if basically get a win here, you dramatically increase your chances for top 4. Ging with the left side shift, see if he can get the Frozen Heart onto the right side, but he's actually facing up against assassin composition. And Shroud doesn't really work that well against a lot of these units. And this Kha'Zix is about to start firing off, but he does move away from the Jace. Jace trying to get his gate up. A second gate to see if he can get it open. That Shojin coming up clutch. And Ging able to get a critical win over Wuzhou, while BCLF takes a loss, and TXE gets the win over Megubin. Megubin on 1 HP in a dream.
Whew. Yeah, the fact that the Kazakhs got on the Jace had me really worried there, but then cast a spell and went to a different target. And that really saved Ging there, keeping the Jace alive. The Jace got to just unload. Megaman has this Misfortune. I like the itemization here. I like the Zeeks. But again, I always just find Misfortune really needs 2 or 3 casts. And again, something like Scrap Striker really struggles. So I think Megaman, while he has 1 HP and a hope, I think it's a very small hope from this point, unfortunately.
We'll see if he can make anything happen here.
Ooh, Nico.
Look at Lilu's board, who not only got the Nico, but also the Debonair. And the reality is he's so rich, he might even use this to chase other... He might legitimately 2-star a lower tier unit than a higher tier at this point. There's that opportunity to go for Zeri 2 right now, though. Oh my god, I love it. Slap a bow tie on this Galio and call it a day. That is Debonair Galio as our front line. You love to see it. That HP scaling is so good for his colossal entrance, as we see who is the unfortunate victim. And it's the other player who fast died. It's Wuzhou, who has made the transition. He does have Voidborn onto Victor. That can be very powerful for his Chaos Rays. Kaisa has gotten the Unstable Concoction, trying to go for the second Monsoon. And it's enough to get the win over Wuzhou. That was so close. But what happened on the other end? Oh my god, Ging is eliminated.
Oh.
And he takes a 6th place. And we're going to have to find out if that's enough for him to go to day 3.
Yeah, that puts him in real sweat area because he was up, a few extra points, but that is not the finish he was looking for, and that might be real bad for Ging based on how the other lobby goes. There was so much to call out that fight there, by the way. We had a Kaisa 2 with Assassin so that her spell could crit, doing a ton of damage, but getting countered by the other Kaisa, which had the best Ornn augment for her, which was that Zanya's, making it so that nothing could happen, letting her do that full cast, unleashing a ton of damage here. And those two players have very strong boards here. We get a look at Milk's board with the Draven and the Zeeks. Probably one of the strongest versions of the Draven board you're ever going to see. Has that BT, but again, up against the Sivir comp, which has proven to be S+ tier this whole thing. Just gets kind of wiped out with all that extra damage. The Jinx unloading. Even got eaten by the Tahm Kench, and unfortunately that's going to be it for Milk Guy. Sivir just too strong compared to the Axe Juggling Draven.
Oh, VCLF able to put together a 4th place. I don't think that's going to be enough, though. I think they're just too far behind. But a respectable finish nonetheless. And then there were 3. At this point, it's pretty much Wuzhou playing for extra credit. Wuzhou's the player at 9th place, needs every point that he can muster, and with this 3rd place, should be good enough, but he wants to go even further. Can anything take down this crazy dominance legendary board, which is still farming items and binary airdrop to add that to boot?
Yeah, I feel like Lilu really dominated and came out to win here, so looking real strong here. The Galio just buying so much time, and if you watch this Kaisa, even if it gets low, it's going to drop the aggro with the Zanyas, and on this second cast, just unleash a ton of damage, but not quite enough. TXE coming out on top, again, showing just how valuable that Scrap Shield is. It's just so much health to burn through. Woozle did manage to win his fight, and right now, Woozle and TXE have got to be feeling good. They were players that both needed really good finishes in the top 4, and here they are in the top 3. So maybe securing their spot to day 2. They've got to feel really good about that.
Yep, they're very much chilling and very relaxed here. And TXE especially, I mean, he comes in as the underdog, really going toe-to-toe with all the other regions' best. It's a Jinx 2 for TXE. Can Lilu find a way to navigate this? Now, the hard part about these legendary boards is you always have to think about ways you can go even higher up against some of these other boards that have so much damage, and you're really starting to see the effect of things like having 3 Zeeks. It was such a good foundation for what TXE wanted to do, and he's been landing the Frozen Heart Echoes. I do want to comment, we've been seeing a lot of players miss them, and for the most part, people have been making it pretty easy as he gets another strong lineup. But this is the matchup that we're going to see. 2 Zephyrs off the binary airdrop alongside that Shroud. That is a devastating combination indeed. And there is no chance unless this Kaisa is able to get it done with another Monsoon. Ooh. Okay, I see you. The Assassin Kaisa really kicking in there.
Yeah, this is a slow bleed. Lilu right now, kind of losing every fight, but only by 1 or 2 units. This is the kind of game that, even though a bunch of players were eliminated very early, could go all the way to 7-2, 7-3 based on how these fights go. Now, I'm not going to try to math this out, by the way, but for score, we talked about how everything was really tight in that middle range. I can report from the other lobby, Goose and Goobums both top forward. So the standings are definitely wide open, and it's going to be crazy to see who makes it into day 2 right now, because it is definitely pretty variable right now.
Wait, those are players that Wujel's directly fighting for. 8, 9, 10 is Goose, Goobums,
Yep,
and Wujel. So now,
like I said,
it's desperation time. They play for extra points if that's who we're fighting to get to the top 8. We'll see if Wujel can do it and survive, but this Kaisa is down. No, she's able to heal up immediately with the thrill of the run.
Oh, not quite.
Not able to get it done, but surviving with 1 HP, just enough to fight for stage 7. And we take a look at what the items are bringing. That's a Ginsu's Rage Point.
Yeah, the Ginsu's is not bad there, although the fights are so fast that it's not really going to get a ton of extra value here. Interestingly enough, I almost wonder if you put this on the Silco just to try to maybe get 1 or 2 extra casts to buy you that time, because the Silco is going to keep your comp alive. At least on the Zeeks. Like, yeah, this is coming down to it. And again, that's why I wanted to call out the standings in the other lobby, because every point could matter here. You know, TXE, though, has been on a big win streak. Clearly the strongest player in the lobby right now with that capped out Sivir board. Can anything else beat it? You know, and right now we're looking at this board that Lilu has gotten. Other than a Leona with a Nico here, how does he get much stronger? He's got 58 gold low. I can't believe he's not rolling. I'm curious to see what he's going to do with that.
I wonder if he's waiting for Wujel to die, then send his gold to go for a 3-star legendary. He has a Nikos, and he has a lot of HP. Although stage 7 is deceptive, you can deal 20 to 30 damage very quickly if you're not careful. It is the ghost for Wujel, who needs to survive. And it does look like that Zeeks was played onto Orianna. I like that. You can't really convince me that there's a third item that's that much better than the Zeeks, and he's not going to make it to stage 7 carousel. As we do have to fight here, Lilu versus TXE, a clash of titans, and TXE does take a loss, and Wujel's out in third.
Yep, so we've got our top 2 here. Wujel getting a third, which is definitely a good score. It's what he's looking for, but, you know, maybe hoping for a second just to secure any up-and-comers from, say, like that Goose or Goobums that were on their way up. So now we see this roll down from Lilu. Now has 6 Jins. We'll have to see if he can hit anything else. Again, his board's pretty capped, though. Doesn't seem to really hit anything too crazy here. Has 6 Zeris. That's not a Zeri 3. So is it enough? He did win the last fight, but again, it's all going to come down to positioning, that Echo, and how well... Oh, got some good binary items here. The Giant Slayer is really good here, so take it away.
All right, well, the Zephyr onto the Kaisa is going to make it difficult as she doesn't really get to the fight. Galio entrance is going to stall a bunch of units. Sivir's now also under threat. Zeri's able to take it down. And that's another win. Lilu didn't even get a chance to play for the Zeri 3. Going to end this game start to finish with full dominance. Lilu from China is going to be the winner of the last game here at day 2 of the Gizmos and Gadgets Championships.
Such a dominating performance from our Chinese players so far. I mean, Mort, I feel like you called this from the very beginning, but what is even going on for these Chinese players to be as successful as they are?
And this is the end of day 2. We'll see you in the final day.